welcome back to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. Hi, remember us? It's been a while. We're still here. But, hey, holidays, right?
Holiday illnesses.
Yeah, exactly. Doctor's visits, vet visits, for my case. So.
Yes, doctor visits, vet visits, family visits.
Yeah.
Holiday obligations.
Craziness.
Holiday craziness, yes.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria.
Exactly. So,
I think we're actually considering listening to these men.
Exactly. So, hi everyone, I'm Charles Skaggs, as always, at least most of the time. With me as always, Xan Sprouse.
Hello everyone.
In the house.
In the Sprouse house.
In the Sprouse house, exactly. Yeah. Fresh from, not too long ago, from meeting a few Twin Peaks people.
Yes, I did.
Why don't you tell us about that really quick before we get going? Because that was pretty all kinds of awesome.
Yes, I went to the Steel City Comic-Con, which is not a Comic-Con. It is a pop culture toy show, pretty much.
Got it, yeah.
They sell comics, but there really aren't comic artists. It is a good outlet for independent comic artists, even if you're doing your own self-published thing. But it's not a place with major publisher comics or anything like that.
That's in Monroeville, right? Right outside of Pittsburgh?
Yes, it's in Monroeville, and it's near the Monroeville Mall, which we all know and love from Dawn of the Dead. Which is it's always fun to go and just go to the mall too. It's nice, but so yes, it was Monroeville Convention Center, or I forget what it's called, but yeah, it's right in the middle of like the mall area. And I went because Kimmy Robertson, Harry Goss, and Sherilyn Fenn were there.
Very nice. So of course, Audrey, Deputy Andy, and the lovely Lucy. So yes, Lucy Brennan. Yes. So that was pretty awesome, and obviously they were very nice to you because you got a lot of cool stuff.
Yes, I did. It was very fun. We started out with a photo op, so I have a photo of the four of us, which was very cool.
Right.
And for those of you who are wondering, the little gut that Deputy Andy has in the show, 100% real. That's real.
Well, that's what happens when you get older, but if you're a guy.
But yeah, he's a skinny, long, tall Texan, but he does have a gut. It was pretty awesome. So, and then, unfortunately.
I have to think that's a beer gut.
Good question. He was very, what was funny is that when I posted the photo to my Facebook page, somebody asked me if it was Matt Frewer.
Right, because now that he's older, he kind of does look a little bit like Matt Frewer.
Right, for those of you who don't remember the 80s, Matt Frewer was the voice of a character, a computer-generated character that started out as a Coca-Cola advertising mascot called Max Headroom, and then he
became a pop culture icon.
He was in Star Trek: The Next Generation. He's just sort of popped up everywhere. And so people thought it was Matt Frewer, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. But he is kind of in person. He is kind of wacky. He and Kimmy Robertson sort of act like a wackier real life version of Andy and Lucy, which is really cute. And
so they have just as much chemistry off screen as they do on screen.
They do. It's really adorable.
That's
so we took the photo, and then a little bit later they did a panel, and then they did these signings. And one thing that I have always liked Kimmy Robertson from is I'm a big fan of The Tick.
Oh, yes, the live-action version.
No.
Oh,
I'm a fan of that as well, but the animated version also, Lucy, listen to me, Kimmy Robertson was Dot, the Tick's sister.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I totally forgot that.
And she was also on The Simpsons. She was in Batman, and so she's done a lot of voice work. And she's one of those that's a very like a Yardley Smith. You can definitely tell it's her when it's her. So, but we were talking about voice acting, and she was talking about how they kind of forgot about that character after a while, and then she dropped an F-bomb on me. And when you hear the F-bomb in Lucy Moran's voice, it's adorable. It's It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think I commented to you that it probably sounds like something like a Smurf swearing.
Something like, it's just really adorable.
That's awesome.
So we talked for a little bit about when I had them sign my book. I had them sign my Secret History of Twin Peaks. I thought that'd be a good thing to have everybody sign. And,
yeah.
She asked where my name came from, and I was explaining to her, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of it. Back in the 60s, there was a family that was on TV that did variety shows. They were the King family. And one of them and then there would be episodes where they'd have their entire family on, their kids and all the, everybody. And one of the King sisters had a daughter named Xan. And that's where my mom heard it and liked it, and it came from that.
Okay.
And so she was talking about one of the first times that they ever did a Twin Peaks related event. They were in some hotel, and then this giant group of people just started singing, and it was the King family.
Really?
Yeah, so we had this little King family discussion, and so she signed my book to Zanny, because she told me that if she knew me, she would call me Zanny.
Which is adorable.
Is adorable. With love for the King family, Kimmy Robertson.
I was wondering about that when I saw your signed pics.
Right, we both had King family stories, which was it, because the King family nobody's talked about for the last 40 years. So it was kind of cool that we had those shared stories. And then after she said that if she knew me, she would call me Zanny, Harry Goss said, well, I'm from Texas, so if I knew you, I would call you Darlin. So when I left the table, he's like, bye, Darlin. And I said, bye, honey. So it was very, very cute. And then Sherilyn Fenn and I had a little mushy moment, which was really nice. The first time I met Sherilyn Fenn, I went stupid crazy on her.
Understandable.
Oh my God, I love you so much. Blah, blah, blah. And that just reminds me, I have a thing I need to send to my friend Steven. Anyway, I told her that I've always really idolized her and, wished I could look like her and things like that. And she said to me, never be mean to yourself. And I've tried to keep that advice close by ever since she said that. So I told her this time I wanted to thank her for the good advice. And she got up and she hugged me and she said, it's true. And thank you for reminding me of that good advice. So we had a nice little mushy moment, the two of us together.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
She seems like such a really nice lady.
She's a very, very big-hearted, sweet woman. They all are just wonderfully sweet people. So it was fun. And, I feel a little stupid because I was so flabbergasted by meeting them. I didn't say to them, if you ever want to hear somebody talk about how awesome you are, I've got this podcast that I do with my friend Charles. And you can just download it, and all we'll do is talk about how amazing you people are.
Exactly. Yeah, if you ever need some kind of life-affirming feedback or whatever, yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things I thought I really appreciated you doing was you were just talking to people about Ghostwood while you were waiting in line.
Yeah, so if there's anybody from Pittsburgh who's listening, hey, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, so hopefully your faith has been justified, and we will hopefully try to continue to do so.
Hopefully we will entertain you while talking about Twin Peaks.
Yep.
One thing that was adorable too is when I was waiting for the photo op, there was a family there with a little girl, 3 at the absolute most, that her parents had taught her to say, "This is the water and this is the well. Drink long and descend."
Oh my God!
It was the cutest thing I'd ever seen.
Did they have her dressed up as one of the woodsmen?
It was so. My God!
Was she dressed up?
No, she was just a little girl that just said it. It was so cute.
That is hilarious.
Oh my gosh!
It's too bad you didn't get cell phone video of that, because that would have been the best.
That would have been the best, but I don't always feel that great about taking video and posting it to other people's kids.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But
that's an old Dimitri Martin joke that I like a lot. He says, when somebody shows you pictures of their kids, you know what they don't want to hear? Oh yeah, I got some pictures of your kid too. Yeah, I'm always very, very cautious about taking photos.
That's probably wise. That's probably
there was another family that was adorable. The dad was dressed up like Sheriff Hopper. One of the kids was Dustin. Another kid was 11, and the mom, who had really short hair, had on a members only jacket and was dressed as Steve Harrington.
Nice.
So it was adorable.
Did she have the pompadour?
She did, and she had a bat. She had a bat with fake nails.
With the spikes or the barbed wire, or not the barbed wire, but
barbed wire is
that's Walking Dead. Yeah, that's right.
Nails is
there was the nails. Yes.
Yep.
That's
mm-hmm.
it.
So yeah, she had all that. It was great.
That is awesome.
And I saw them when we were waiting. You had to have your number called to be part of the signature line.
Right.
And I think they were at lunch or a panel or something. So we were just waiting, and I was sitting in there. So they had a booth for Rita's Italian Ices.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you've ever had that, but it's delicious.
I've heard of them.
Oh my goodness!
I haven't had one, but I've heard of them.
It's fantastic. We have one near us, and I've just never been because I'm thinking to myself, meh, there's ice cream. Why would I go here? Oh my God, it's so good.
Totally worth it.
Totally worth it. So I'm sitting there and I see this family. They're all eating ices.
Yeah.
And I said, "Our afternoons for contemplation and Italian ice," and they just laughed. So
that's funny.
It was very cute. Yeah, there's some really fun costumes and really nice people, and it was a good show.
That's cool. It's been a long time since I've been to Monroeville for that con.
Yeah.
So I would say like maybe 6 years. So yeah, I'm sure it's changed.
I haven't been in a while, but I think the first time I went, oh yeah, it's definitely changed. It's much bigger.
Right.
The first time I went, it was because specifically it was a toy show and I was hoping to find Pez.
Of course.
But that was where I met Richard Kiel.
Jaws from the Bond movies, yes.
Yes, which was lots of fun for me because he's also the Canamet from the Twilight Zone.
Right. And
that was I have one of those like 12-inch, well for him it's like a 14-inch figure of the Canamet holding the book.
Right.
And so I asked him to sign the book for me. He's like, "You want me to sign this little thing? It's the same amount of money." I'm like, "I don't care. It's the book. I don't want it." So,
that's funny.
But yeah, and I got my picture taken with him, so that was wonderful. And that was also one of the places where we saw Ray Park, who we occasionally run into at conventions.
Yeah.
Because we've been guests at the same show a few times and, gone to the airport with him and stuff like that. So he's always so sweet. He's always really nice.
Nice guy.
He's a wonderful guy. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. He's and when you say like, "Hey, we did a show with you and such," he's he may not necessarily. He's like, "Oh, didn't we write of it?" Yeah, he doesn't necessarily remember our names, but he remembers experience.
So you jog his memory and he probably remembers you. Yeah,
that's the thing is that if he doesn't necessarily know our work the way or my work, listen to me like I do anything.
Oh, you do plenty.
I don't draw the comic books.
No, but you keep Chris in line. That takes a lot of effort.
But there was one year when I first met him in Dragon Con, he didn't charge me for an autograph and a photo. And he said, "Well, your husband's a guest too. Next time he can do me a sketch." So we specifically went to this Pittsburgh show to give him a sketch. And he was very appreciative and he was very, very nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So yeah, that was a really fun show. And I was glad that I took the drive.
It is a bit of a drive from Columbus. Yes, it's like 3 hours.
Half hours. We drove up the night before and stayed in a hotel, and then that way we were able to get there fairly early in the morning and not miss anything because I think their signing window was at 1 or something like that. So
well, I'm glad you got to go because that sounds great.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
It was super.
Well, thanks for sharing that because that's obviously I couldn't go, but I'm glad that you got to go.
At least one of us got to go.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. You represented.
I represented Ghostwood.
I was the big fat fail.
Hey, we all have things we have to do. We're grown-ups.
Exactly. All right. So, So we're going to talk about the Final Dossier today, but
we are.
There's a lot to talk about.
Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about. So we're going to talk until we feel it's appropriate.
Yeah, we'll find a good place to break because I don't think we're going to get on through this all in one sitting.
No, I don't think so.
It might take
either.
us 2 episodes, I'm thinking, but we'll see how we do.
2 episodes if we are concise.
Yeah.
We might.
But this is us, and that rarely happens.
Right, that's the problem. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because we do things like this, and we've
right. Well,
rambled.
There's things that happen.
Yeah.
There's things that happen in our life.
And before we get started, I want to mention something. Zan, you've put up with my nonsense for over a year now. Because on the 22nd of December, we were going to record last week on the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
But on the 22nd, we just celebrated our first anniversary of Ghostwood.
Well, look at us.
Yeah, so yeah, we got 24 episodes in that first year, which is pretty impressive.
That's pretty good. Well,
Yes.
happy anniversary, Charles.
Well, happy anniversary to you too. So yeah, I thought I'd mention that. It's always kind of cool to say, hey, we're in our second year of the podcast.
Now
So
we're solidified.
exactly. Now we're cooking with gas.
Can't get rid of us now.
Yep. Exactly. We're locked in.
Yes.
All right. So, with that in mind, I just wanted to mention that. So, we're going to talk about the Final Dossier. So, this is obviously the second Twin Peaks novel by Mark Frost, co-creator of Twin Peaks. Released on October 31st, Halloween of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And published by Flatiron Books once again. So, it looks really nice when they're stacked together on the shelves, although this book is much smaller, thinner.
Much thinner.
Much thinner, but the dust jackets line up nicely.
Yes, the dust jackets line up nicely, and this book packs a little bit of a wallet because this book is, if you were like me at the end of the series, your only, and I don't even want to say complaint, but your only continued longing was not learning about certain people. This book is going to give it to you.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of that. So if you were kind of left cold that certain characters were never brought into the series, understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of, I don't know, kind of illuminates what those characters were going through, the ones that didn't appear on screen.
Right.
And kind of resolves their characters in one way or another, usually pretty horrible way. Based on this book.
And as we'll talk about in just a moment, sometimes that's fine.
Yes. Sometimes it's deserved.
Sometimes I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, sometimes, but yeah. So we'll see. So we'll get into that. So this thinner book, which again is much more powerful. It's thinner, but it's more substantive. There's a lot more in this one than there was in the Secret History of Twin Peaks, I believe. And go ahead.
It's more what we know than what we it's people we know, not Lewis and Clark. Even though we know Lewis and Clark.
Exactly, but it's not a history lesson in a lot of ways. And obviously, it follows the return. So there's a lot of elements from that incorporated into this.
Yes.
So
again, this is put together. This is sort of like final report.
Yeah.
Addendum.
Yeah, we find out that Tammy Preston, who was obviously tasked with this back during the Secret History of Twin Peaks, initially given Major Briggs's dossier.
Right.
Which led into the return. Well, now this is after the return, and this is essentially her post-game wrap-up.
Right. After she's been indoctrinated into the Blue Rose Task Force.
Yeah, now that she's officially Blue Rose Task Force, which is because, it's
she sort of tied up some loose ends from Twin Peaks and from this group of people.
Exactly. So, interestingly, we open with this dossier apparently being submitted on September 6th, 2017, which is just 3 days after the final episode of The Return. So
she's pretty resourceful.
Yes.
And make good use of her time.
Yeah, good timely. Like, she spent 3 days, like, okay, here I am, September 3rd. Okay, boom. Knock it right out. Maybe she just had to initial off on everything. Maybe it was all ready to go, but for the most part.
Right. Maybe she was gathering, because she says that when she started the project, it was sort of about the town itself.
Right.
So she'd probably been gathering this stuff all together for a while, and then just created her final report, her final paperwork.
I would kind of like to know if, like, Tammy had, like, this big conspiracy wall tying with like, yarn tied to one end to the other.
Like string and
across the room,
Right.
This whole big menagerie.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. So she submitted this on September 6th to Gordon and Cole, and it apparently concludes her follow-up investigation of Briggs's dossier. And apparently she did some interviews and personal research on the various Twin Peaks residents, some of which obviously we didn't get to see on the show, but it's nice to know their fates in this case, so we get those as well. And then she also thanks Gordon for giving her the opportunity and anticipates the work still ahead.
Which I liked quite a bit.
So hopefully
that implies there's work still ahead. And even if that means another book, I'm happy with it.
If we can't get another series, obviously a book would be great. So hopefully this isn't the last we get of Twin Peaks, but if it is, at least we now have this book to kind of tie up some of the loose ends.
Yes, we do. We have this book and we can always go back to it. And by the way, I know you were all wondering, my Blu-ray of the Return finally showed up in the mail.
Yay! Amazon finally got off his
Bezos
and got it to you.
Yep. So the first
Bezos shakes fist.
Bezos. So yes, the first thing that you see in this addendum to the dossier, is an autopsy report.
Yes, a really interesting autopsy
report. Not exactly a traditional autopsy report, as she says.
Well,
but this is
if you know who the medical examiner was who did this autopsy report, and we do.
We do, and you don't even need to, just based on the language from it, you don't even need to see who it is. But this was done by Albert. And
Albert and his team.
Albert, no, don't go to Sam.
Don't go to Sam.
Albert seems to have a little more on the ball with this. This is the autopsy report of Leo Johnson.
Yes, he's dead.
Yes, Leo's dead. And this is, again,
officially dead.
All props to Eric Daré, who did a fantastic job as Leo Johnson.
But we're glad you're dead.
I'm glad you're dead. You are a vicious bastard.
You are a vicious bastard, Johnson, and but I'm glad you're dead. Sorry, couldn't resist the Nicholson shout out there.
Yes, exactly. So he was killed basically after he ran off into the woods.
Right. And Albert makes a point of saying he wasn't killed by the spider bites because
they're not even venomous, dipshit.
Yeah, tarantulas aren't venomous.
They just look scary.
Yeah.
They aren't even venomous, dipshit. But yes, he has several spider bites, which we know from him being tied up with the spiders above his head.
Doesn't mean he couldn't have the spider bites, but the bites did not kill him.
Right, exactly. So, but he also had various torture wounds, burns, bruises, things like that. But also, he was shot 5 times.
In the upper thoracic.
Who shot him?
Well, apparently Albert has a theory.
Yes.
And
Albert's theory.
So, Albert notes that the scuff marks left on the scene indicate the shooter may have used an FBI-style shooting stance.
Oh, so who might be wandering around the woods, not like himself, with an FBI shooting stance?
Well, he assumes that it was Wyndham Earle.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah.
So I'm thinking that Wyndham Earle, after he stole the log lady's truck.
Right. The log lady stole my truck.
Wyndham Earle stole your truck. Okay. I think after he came back with Annie, Leo was wandering around the woods.
Powder blue. Oh, sorry.
He just tied up his loose end, basically. And as Albert says, to sum up, Leo Johnson's dead. Having a hard time arguing that the local landscape isn't trending upward because of it.
That is such an Albertism.
Such an Albertism, yes, exactly.
But he's not wrong.
Right, and there's an interesting PS to his autopsy report, which is The recent body count from this little criminal corner of town is officially way off the actuarials. Jean Renault, Jacques Renault, Leo Johnson, and some other dirtbag drug dealer in the woods whose melodious name escapes me. Bobby killed a guy.
Bobby killed a guy, but he's never been busted for it.
He's never been busted for it.
And he ended up joining the police force and still didn't get busted for it. That we know of.
Exactly. Yeah. So we at least now know that somebody found that guy.
Right.
But I think it's just some dude, probably some drug dealer from Canada.
Yeah, so they probably didn't they probably didn't look really hard into who killed this guy. They were just glad he was dead, probably.
Exactly. So
now, did you catch the date of this autopsy? Which I think is kind of funny.
April
Fool's Day.
Yep. April Fool's Day, which is kind of perfect. Which that's, and when anything like this ever happens on April Fool's Day, I always think, please at least be real.
Well, as far as we know, Leo's dead because one, we didn't see him in the return, so we have to assume he's dead at this point.
Right. Exactly.
And it would be really surprising if he wasn't dead. So, all right. So, anything else about the autopsy you want to talk about before we move on to our next case file?
No, not really. Just I did always wonder, where did Leo go? And it sounds like Wyndham Earl in his insanity fugue shot him. So.
Yep. I think so.
I wonder what piece on the chessboard he was supposed to be.
Yeah, you have to think that at some point, Wyndham wasn't going to let Leo go.
No. Yeah, that's the... Yeah,
Leo, he probably knew, probably maybe in the back of his insane brain, he knew that the spiders weren't going to kill him.
Right.
But it would, terrify him.
He just tried to torture and brainwash him to make him do his bidding, and then when he was done with him, he was done with him.
He probably figured, well, I'm going to type this loose end, take out Leo, bada boom, move on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not that Wyndham Earl particularly needed loose ends tied up, because what happened to him?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we find out, hey, he disappeared. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to our second case file, Shelly Johnson.
Shelly Johnson, yes, who. Yeah, it's kind of.
Is it pretty much what you expected with this one?
Kind of what I expected from Shelly. I liked that there were some historical stories about when she was first, dating Bobby.
Right.
Because it seems like Bobby. I'm sort of got the feeling that Bobby and Shelly were together before Bobby and Laura were.
Yeah, well, that's what is kind of outlined here, which I think is really great. Right. This timeline, I mean, it sets up an interesting timeline. Like, it talks about her being like the only child from a broken home, that apparently because of alcoholism and spousal abuse ended in divorce. Surprise. Right, and
her father was nowhere to be found. Right. So this is very psychology stereotype 101.
Right.
You have a young impressionable girl whose parents divorce, and then she has no father figure, and then she winds up with bad boys.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's very cliched.
Yeah. So apparently she started dating Bobby, who she knew since elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Dated all the way through high school until like their junior year or her junior year, at least, because
high school.
What?
That was her last year in high school.
Yeah. So because apparently, there's a big confrontation at the junior prom that we find out, where apparently Shelly found out that he was cheating on her with Laura Palmer, confronted him about it there, caused a big scene, and at some point she takes off, ends up at the roadhouse, where she meets Leo, who we find out is 6 years older than her.
Right. With a flashy car. We all know that.
So translation, he was doing what, statutory rape?
Oh, very much so.
Yes.
So his history of statutory rape is a long-standing one, apparently. What's interesting to me, though, is this is yet another in a line of stories from Twin Peaks high school people just overdosing on their own drama.
Yeah.
Where, when we take the story of Ed and Norma and how she ends up with Hank and he ends up with Nadine, it's just...
It's very soap opera, and intentionally so.
It's invitation to love.
Yep.
So that's the thing. It's, Bobby Briggs is not a nice guy, but that doesn't mean you have to marry Leo Johnson. God.
No.
So, yeah, they have a quickie wedding a couple of weeks later, and
then Shelly leaves high school. She doesn't graduate.
Shelly leaves high school because he doesn't want a wife. He wants a maid. We already know that.
Right.
So, and then, of course, after Leo is found, and of course Laura is dead, she and Bobby kind of rekindle their romance. But they had some things to go through, because understandably so, especially after they'd rekindled their romance already, but they sort of make it public that they're back together.
Right. And
based on their penchant for insurance fraud when it comes to
yes.
They are like prime suspects in Leo Johnson's murder for a while, but they're cleared, and then they get married.
Yeah, apparently it's like almost 1 year to the day after Leo died. They get married during a weekend trip to Reno.
Reno, yes.
Yep. So they were, and then apparently 7 months later, Shelly gives birth to Becky.
And we find out that Shelly's mother has passed away, and of course Major Briggs is gone by this point. So Betty Briggs is very much into being there for her granddaughter, and of course Norma, thinking of Shelly as the little sister.
Right.
So she kind of has a bunch of people around her to help her through this young wife, young mother period.
Yeah, I was kind of glad to see that Betty partnered up with Norma here to help them out and get them a house.
Exactly.
So that means at least Betty was approving of the relationship.
Well, and I think Betty was a little bit more ready to nurture the good side of Bobby, regardless of his leather jacket, than his father was. I think his father knew it was there, but wanted him to be more proper on the outside and on the inside. So I think she was a little bit more... Betty Briggs is very maternal. And I think that Shelly, while she's not from a quote-unquote good family or anything like that, Shelly's less trouble than Laura.
That's true. Yeah, so maybe she just wanted Bobby to be happy and is like, okay, you're not treating my son horribly, so therefore, okay, right. I'll support this.
Yeah, exactly. And nothing stops a family feud like a new baby.
This is true.
The baby is nobody's fault and just is adorable and just needs cared for. So
yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we leave off with Shelly. But I did like that we got a little bit more backstory and clarification of the timeline with her.
Yes, and a little bit more of her backstory and how she hooked up with Leo, because he obviously didn't go to school with her, so how'd she meet this guy? And what is with this town that all the teenagers go to its local bar?
Well, apparently there's nothing. There's apparently the only place to do something that's not in school or not doing drugs in the woods is the Roadhouse. The Roadhouse, yeah.
But you'd think that, I don't know, you'd think that the kids would be more interested in the bookhouse. I don't know. But
all they had to do was just build this town. This town needed to build like a laser tag or something.
Just one arcade or
exactly.
Trampoline place, or I don't even know.
Crime would drop 50% easy if just built one arcade.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Something.
Drive-in movie theater or something.
But yeah, it's like, why? I mean, I know there's only 3 cops there, but like every night there's teenagers in the bar. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Well, the teenagers outnumber the cops. Yeah, like 50 to 1.
Oh, like 50 to 1.
Yeah, more than that.
Seriously.
Pretty much. All right, so let's move on. Third case, Hornes and Haywards.
Hornes and Haywards. So we learn a little bit more about what happened. First of all, the first thing we learn about is what happened at the bank.
Yeah.
And we do find out that Pete, Andrew Packard, and Del Mibler, that Harry Carey looking bank, moving bank guy, who
is still shuffling across the bank floor. No.
Who is still shuffling across the bank floor.
No.
He probably will for all eternity.
Well, at least he was before he got blowed up real good. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah, his ghost is still shuffling across that bank floor.
But this is where we also learn that Audrey did survive.
Yes.
She's the only person that survived the bank explosion. But it also says...
Well, we did get confirmation that already in Secret History of Twin Peaks, when we found out that Pete got in front of the blast.
Yes, we did find that out. But this is also apparently the same day, and I'd forgotten that this all happened in the same night. That
the Miss Twin Peaks contest.
Benjamin Horne is also in the hospital with a head injury, which we know comes from being beaten in the head by the fire poker.
Yes.
By Dr. Hayward. And so what's interesting is that they are all sort of sticking to their story of that he slipped and hit his head on the mantle.
Yeah, apparently that's the official story. And,
right.
And then we found out that Doc Hayward's diagnosed him with a grade 2 concussion.
Uh-huh.
Which apparently is the same excuse used later on with Cooper.
Exactly.
So we'll get into that, but
we'll get into that later. But yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting. It's like, oh, he's using the same excuse. How many other people has Doc Hayward, used that excuse or something? Like, there's this whole dark side to Doc Hayward we never knew.
And maybe there's more to amateur hour than we think. Maybe he knows what he's doing. He's just hiding things from his town. So, yeah, that's the thing.
He seemed like such a nice man.
Right. And so I think that I'm assuming that this is good Ben Horne.
Right.
And he's probably thinking, he could have killed me. I kind of had this coming. Let's just sweep this one under the rug.
Right.
Because
maybe he just, you're right. I think you're right. I think he just went along with it. He's like, okay, I learned my lesson. I'm not going to pursue this. Let's just drop the matter and pretend it didn't happen.
Right, exactly. And so...
Because, you think about it, Ben's got Audrey in a coma.
He's got Audrey in a coma.
So he's probably like, okay, I can't deal with this other stuff right now. Forget it.
I can't deal with having another daughter right now.
Yeah.
I have to deal with my own...
Yeah.
The daughter that I've raised and the daughter that I'm trying to atone and make amends with.
Right.
So then this is also all in the same time period of Cooper bashing his head into the mirror and then having to go to the hospital with his head wound. Again,
it struck him as funny.
What'd you say?
I said it struck him as funny.
It just struck him as funny.
Yeah.
And he never did brush his teeth. So
obviously it ties in with the original series finale.
Right.
And
exactly.
And yeah, apparently they chalk it up to, well, he slipped on his hotel room bathroom floor and hit his head on the mirror.
Exactly.
As opposed to deliberately smashing his own head into the mirror, as we know. And yeah, he was admitted with the same grade 2 concussion.
Grade 2 concussion, yeah. So, interesting.
Yeah, and then we found out that Ben gets taken home by Jerry.
Ben gets picked up by Jerry. He just sort of, leaves the hospital like, whatever, I'm fine. And thus begins the continued sweeping under the rug of the true paternity of Donna Hayward.
Right.
And here we have more details about the rape of Audrey Horne.
Yeah.
And that it was, in fact, Cooper had done that.
Yeah, apparently he spent like one day and one night in the hospital before he checked himself out.
And then he was just sort of seen walking around and went into Audrey's room, came out, and then boom, Richard Horne.
Yeah, 9 months later, boom, we get Richard.
Yep.
And of course, the father on the birth certificate is unknown.
Unknown, yes. Now, here is the sad part.
One of many.
One of many.
Yeah.
This was a catalyst to the Haywards' divorce.
Right.
The Haywards got divorced. And we find out that even though Doc Hayward is in Vermont, Eileen is not with him.
No.
She's
like 3 months, within 3 months of this, he closes his practice and then moves across the country to Middlebury, Vermont.
Yes.
And then he files for divorce from Eileen. He
files, it's a non-contested, mutually agreed upon divorce. And so they've split up. He's across the country. Donna leaves and goes to New York.
Right. So it also breaks up the family, that in addition to their marriage.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And
she does at least graduate with honors.
She graduates with honors and goes to New York, which I'm assuming is just sort of, girl from small town, big dreams kind of thing, just wanting to get the hell away from her family as far as she can. But Gersten and Harriet stay home with Eileen.
Right.
Now, here's an interesting thing. $7,500 a month just shows up in Eileen's bank account from some sort of weird offshore Cayman Islands.
Yeah, it's only, but apparently it gets traced back. Tammy traces it back to the Horne Foundation.
Yes, Tammy traces it back to the Horne Foundation. And so regardless, she's still taken care. She's still being taken care of by Benjamin Horne.
Right.
Up until she dies.
Right.
Of pneumonia.
Well, I mean, in one way, it's kind of nice that Ben wasn't going to just leave her out there.
Right. I mean, and that was the thing, is that good,
Yeah.
Good Ben was not going to do that.
Because remember, she would be a single mom, but she's also a paraplegic.
A single mom who's confined to a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. A paraplegic. So yeah. So.
And even though his daughter, well, I'm assuming that Donna's his daughter only.
Yes.
I don't think Gersten and Harriet are. Right.
But apparently he still has at least enough feelings for Eileen to take care of her.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We're never quite sure, though, what their deal was. Like, never.
That was a little disappointing. That we never really got their backstory.
Yeah, that was a little bit disappointing.
Maybe at some point, hopefully, but
we don't learn what the deal was with Eileen and Ben, and what was up with that photograph. That photograph of the two of them.
Did we ever get the story of how she ended up paralyzed?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So I like to think maybe she was out with Ben or something. There was a car wreck.
I don't know, but yeah, there's that photo. Remember that photo of the two of them holding up Doc Hayward, who's like muddy and disoriented?
Yeah.
What the heck is going on with that? So
I don't know, but yeah, it would be nice to get that story, but we don't get it.
Mm-hmm. But there's one happy ending to this story.
Probably the only happy ending in this book.
The only happy ending is that Harriet is a pediatrician in Seattle.
Yeah.
That's about it.
She settles down just outside of Seattle in the suburbs, but apparently she goes on and actually has a normal life, for all that we know of. Unlike her sister, but we'll get into her sister later. Yeah. So that's one of the things about this book, is that even though it may talk about certain characters, you don't get the in one case file, you don't get to learn about certain things until other case files. You start reading about those. Mm-hmm. And you have to kind of tie them together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's interesting that, we find out that Ben was asked to be interviewed by Tammy, but declined it.
Yes, he did. He did. He was very... There's something up. There's something very hush-hush about this.
Yeah. There's obviously more to the story.
There's more here than meets the eye.
Exactly. Yeah. And we also got another thing that some information about Major Briggs, his death in this chapter, is that we found apparently 2 days after Cooper checks himself out, which we kind of found out from the Secret History of Twin Peaks, that Major Briggs was the last person to see Cooper and was declared dead after the fire at Listing Post Alpha in Ghostwood Forest.
Right.
But all they found was a charred corpse that was, as we found out during the course of the return,
was not his corpse.
Was not his corpse, and too damaged to identify apart from just a few loose teeth that matched Briggs's dental records.
Right. That's it.
Which presumably Doppelganger Cooper just punched Major Briggs.
Yeah.
And knocked his teeth out to use later. While he kept Briggs on ice.
So whose body is that?
It's a good question. And apparently the cause of the fire is unknown.
Unknown.
A lot of that going on.
Yep.
And then Cooper, of course, vanishes for the next 25 years.
I'm assuming that the cause of the fire is the same thing that caused the burned Philip Jeffries in where was that? Buenos Aires?
Yes. Yes. Argentina, yes. Buenos Aires.
I'm assuming that that's the same thing. The same phenomena. So.
Electricity.
Yep.
So anything else about this chapter before we move on?
No, it's just sad. I hated that the Haywards had to get divorced.
Well, hang on, because Donna's story is coming up, and it's even more depressing.
Well,
although it does kind of have a sort of happy ending.
I'm only so disappointed about Donna.
yeah, you weren't too broken up to see this, but
I'm never a huge fan of Donna. And what's interesting is, and yes, the next chapter, the next file in the case,
right,
is about Donna, and it honestly sounds like Lara Flynn Boyle's actual '90s life.
This is true.
That she sort of became like this jet setter it girl for a while. I mean, she wasn't a model, but she was kind of everywhere. And then it says that she, when she was in her late 20s and no longer, and her modeling career was slowing down, she married a man nearly 2 decades her senior. And those of you who remember the gossip rags of the 90s, Lara Flynn Boyle spent a lot of time with Jack Nicholson.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she was unseen on like the courtside of Laker games with Jack.
They were an item for a while, and I think that even she was... I remember commenting one time, I think it was in Oscars, where I think he was there with Lara Flynn Boyle, and somebody, I think it was... I don't remember what the presentation was, but Angelica Houston got up to present something, and I just remember thinking to myself that she was probably looking at Jack going like, whatever. So I think they might have lived together for a while. I'm not sure what it was, but they were quite an item back in the 90s.
Right. This is presumably after Jerry Hall, because he was involved with Jerry Hall there for a while.
Was he really?
I believe so.
That would make sense from Batman.
But
yeah, Jerry Hall.
I could be mistaken. But I thought he was involved with her. All right.
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. Jerry Hall.
Obviously, Mick Jagger. She was married to Mick Jagger there for a while.
She was married to Mick Jagger for a while. Yeah, she had been with Mick Jagger kind of on and off for quite a long time. I just recently found out that Jerry Hall almost married Brian Ferry.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, she was on the cover of the Roxy Music album Siren.
Okay.
As sort of a blue painted mermaid kind of a thing.
Interesting.
Which is one of my favorite album covers from Roxy Music. The Roxy Music album covers usually have beautiful pinup type cheesecake.
Right.
And I've always liked the Siren one just because it's,
very striking.
Very striking and, seafaring. And apparently the story is that he said, well, if you want to come back to my house, I have a shower. So she could get all this food. It's kind of never left.
That's the move.
That's
like, hey,
you
get her painted, and they're like, hey, you want to get this paint off? I've got the shower. It's really great.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got a house with a shower if you want to come. And then, he's Brian Ferry. He offers you anything, you take it. I'm sorry. He's a sexy, sexy man. Anyway, so she just goes back to his house and just kind of never leaves for a while. And then she winds up, he was going to marry her, and she left him for Mick Jagger. So, I know she's been on and off with Mick Jagger, but
she traded up the rock star food chain.
No, she didn't.
Well, status-wise.
In terms of status and money, yes.
Status-wise, yes. I'm not saying physical appearance. No. That was
for my money, when it comes to male voices in popular music, Brian Ferry's the sexiest voice that's ever come down the pike. Love him. Anyway, but yes, Jerry Hall, of course, was Alicia in the first
Tim Burton Batman. Yeah. With Jack Nicholson. So, yeah.
So that would make sense.
Maybe that's why I'm thinking about it.
But so Donna goes to New York, becomes a model, goes to college, becomes a model.
Yeah, she cuts off all contact with everybody in Twin Peaks. And this was interesting, except for 2 letters to Audrey in 95.
Yeah, she talks to her sisters and she talks to Audrey. And I'm wondering what that one's all about, because they were never particularly close friends.
No,
until
they weren't.
Donna started sniffing around trying to figure out what happened to Laura. And, of course, Audrey was willing to help with that because she always loved Laura for what she did for Johnny. And Audrey, of course, was there when Eileen came to see Ben Horne at the hotel. So
maybe she thought that Audrey would have the dirt or gossip on everybody.
Maybe she would know a little bit more about what was going on, or maybe she learned about Richard.
Or, remember, if Ben Horne is both their fathers, maybe there's that connection.
That's very possibly true. Yeah. So, so she marries this older guy, and they move to Southampton in the, giant country home. And,
I like Tammy's comment that Donna took the hard left into the fast lane.
Yes, the hard left into the fast lane. Absolutely. And then there was there's
a charity event.
A charity event where she runs into Lana Milford.
Yeah.
So, which, and Donna's not particularly happy about running into her, because I think it's somebody from Twin Peaks. I think there's really not a lot going on between Donna and Lana.
No, I mean, they were in the Miss Twin Peaks pageant together, but still.
Yeah, they both lost. It's not like one of them won and the other one didn't, but it was, I think she's just sort of like, oh God, someone from my past.
I guess I better talk to her. But yeah.
Yeah, one of those kind of things.
Probably really all kinds of awkward.
Yeah, kind of all kinds of awkward. And I think we all know that person that we went to college with, or we went to high school with, that, you try to say hi and they really don't want to talk to you for no other reason than they just don't want to have that part of their past in their face. So, so then we find out, and I'm not quite sure.
It's probably like Lana spotted Donna across the room, and she probably went, "Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Donna, how are you doing?" And then Donna's just like, "Please go away. Please go away."
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that would be my guess.
So, but then we find out Donna's kind of a drunk.
Downward slide, and a druggie, as we find out.
And a druggie, yeah. So unfortunately, this is running in the family.
Yeah. So like all of 4 years after being married, she checks into rehab.
Exactly.
They tried to make her go to rehab, and she said, "Okay, yeah, I'll go to rehab."
Fine.
Yeah, that's cool.
So she goes to rehab after an intervention, and then because she goes missing, and her husband finds her in a crack house.
Yeah, that was she checks in for the first of 4 stints. Now the final one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she gets brought into a McLean Psychiatric Hospital after being found in a crack house. And apparently that was triggered by her mom's death in 2009.
Right. She didn't go to the funeral or anything like that. She just sort of, lost her mind.
Right.
About it. So she goes through rehab again. Her husband files for divorce.
Yep. He's like, I'm done.
He's done. And she, having signed a prenup, gets a low 6-figure sum. Okay, well, that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
And then a modest monthly stipend.
Well, hopefully she saved her modeling fees.
Hopefully she did.
Hopefully invested those.
But still, that's...
But she probably blew it on drugs.
Right. She's probably being fairly taken care of, but not in New York, London, Paris, Munich, Milan model kind of way.
Right.
But she probably doesn't have to work, but still, she's probably doing okay. But after having gone through all of this, she reaches back out to Doc Hayward.
And by this time, she's hitting 40.
Right. She's in her, because that means old and washed up for females. So she models for sure.
Yeah, definitely for models.
Right. So
they reconcile, thankfully.
They reconcile. She moves to Vermont. She becomes like the office manager for his practice.
Right.
Which, he's only there a couple days a week, but he never does want to retire. And she's very active in the 12-step programs around town, trying to help out other people with substance abuses. And she's trying to go to school to be a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, so apparently she's at least trying to get her life on track. And she's actually doing it in a positive way, so she kind of sort of gets a happy ending here. She does get
it's a long road to a happy and a normal, quiet life. So we've got 2 Hayward daughters working on going into the medical fields, and doing what they can do to be okay with themselves. And
apparently, we also have 2 Hayward daughters with really bad drug habits.
Yes, we do. Unfortunately,
because we get Gersten's story as well here,
and Gersten is a little bit. Also, she's a little bit stereotypical. Gersten was your typical child genius, child prodigy, where, genius level IQ.
Yeah, she ends up in Stanford at 16.
Musical. We've heard her play the piano. Musical prodigy, playing solo concerts, taking college classes in high school, graduating at 16, fluent in 4 languages. But once she got into Stanford at 16, that's when everything just hit her. Yeah, it absolutely just hit her. Now, there's something that they mention in here. Putting all of her energy into these high-stress, high-function abilities did not protect her from whatever trauma she'd suffered as a child.
Oh, I missed that.
We don't ever find out what that was.
Oh.
And I'm not sure if and that could just be a throwaway line.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't require childhood trauma to be too stressed out and too overscheduled and too young to handle everything that's coming at you.
Maybe she saw Doc hitting Ben into the fireplace.
But she was like 10 when that happened, though. I mean,
doesn't matter. Childhood trauma resurfacing at some point.
That's possible. Yeah, who knows? Or maybe she.
That's the only thing I could think of, because we, as far as we knew, she didn't have any connection to Bob or any of that.
No, and she, Laura was just her big sister's friend, and so, who knows? I mean, like I said, it could just be a throwaway line, but it made me wonder, like, what's going on in the Hayward family? So, not sure. So,
maybe they had Sarah Palmer over for dinner one night.
Oh, that'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah.
So she gets checked into a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, she has this big nervous collapse and emotional breakdown.
Right. She leaves Stanford, goes back home, lives with her mother, and then when her mother dies, that's when she meets up with Steve Burnett.
Yeah. Well, apparently she turned to drugs for comfort, And then it got even worse when her mom died.
When her mom died, yeah, that's the thing. And that's the thing about Twin Peaks, is that apparently drugs real easy to come by in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Very, very easy to come by.
You thought opioids were really easy to come by these days.
Oh, not in Twin Peaks. That's where the cocaine is.
Apparently they sell them in vending machines in Twin Peaks.
Exactly. Yeah, just open up any football. There's going to be cocaine.
Exactly. Yeah, let's go to a local Walmart and just open up footballs, and then
open up the footballs, look for Santa Claus.
Go out to the parking lot and snort your way into oblivion.
Yes, exactly. And then we.
Oh, and she gets involved with Steven on and again, off again, and then last thing we know is that apparently she leaves the area after the return, probably because of watching Steven kill himself.
Yes, pretty much.
That might do it.
And so we find out that Becky Burnett, Steve's wife, and Shelly and Bobby's daughter,
right,
they've been able to get to her in time, but no one has seen Gersten since this whole crazy thing happened where she was in the woods with Steven and the hit and run with Richard.
Right.
No one has seen her since. So, again, depressing moment for the Hornes, not for the Haywards, because poor little Gersten playing the piano.
That poor family just got completely shattered.
Yeah, that was really, really sad.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Speaking of Ben Horne.
Yes. Yeah, let's go into our next topic.
Let's talk about Ben Horne and
Audrey Horne.
And this really, really depressed me. The excuse me. The opening line from this case file is, "Nothing would please my longing for narrative closure more than to report that Audrey Horne's near-death experience at the bank resulted in a meaningful reconciliation with her father, Ben. Sadly, this does not appear to be the case," which is very sad because in the original series, it really looked like it was going that way.
So you're kind of let down and disappointed.
I'm very let down by this because I
know you were a big champion of it when we started the return.
I was. I was very excited. I was very happy to see where carrot-eating Ben had come, and it was.
It almost feels like that Ben tried and then failed miserably, and now he's kind of regretting failing miserably, and is trying to do good again.
That's the thing. He never stopped being. It's like he wasn't as actively evil as he had been.
Right.
But he's also not as actively good. He's almost this sort of indifferent cynicism.
Chaotic neutral. No.
Something like that. So they don't necessarily have a great relationship after this. And a couple years after Eileen and Ben Hayward divorce, Ben and Sylvia Horne finally divorce. Right. And they've not particularly been happy together for a long time.
No, that one was a long time coming.
That was a long time coming. They sort of lived, they lived in that big hotel and sort of very separate lives.
Right.
And
yeah. Ben had his little dalliances on the side. And...
Right. And most of Sylvia's time is taken up by caring for Johnny. So that's the thing, is that Audrey, typical family of Audrey being left to her own devices. She has these parents who hate each other, a brother who is everybody rightfully adores because he's such a sweet kid, but he requires so much more care.
Right.
So,
Laura's not around anymore.
And Laura's not around. So, what happened was she just sort of did the typical, again, very stereotypical, very cliched thing of acting out for any attention she can possibly get. And it caused some damage. So, one thing that was very upsetting to Audrey is that after all of this chaotic stuff happened, I think with the attack from Ben Horne and everything going on with Agent Cooper and after Laura and all this stuff, he did in fact even after Audrey almost blew up for it,
right?
He sold out to Ghostwood.
Yeah, that was the disappointing part.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you there, because when we find out that Audrey woke up from her coma after 3.5 weeks,
right?
But even though she wakes up, Ben goes ahead with the sale.
He goes ahead with the sale. She doesn't remember what happened. She's doing well health-wise, but then he goes along with the sale.
So did something happen to change his mind, do you think?
I don't know what happened.
We don't get a hint of that here.
No, we don't get a hint of that here. And I wonder if it just, like I said, some sort of indifferent cynicism where he's just, no matter what I do, nothing goes right.
Right.
So I might as well just get what I can.
Well, here's what I'm kind of wondering, though, because why I'm bringing that question up is that they talk about that apparently the sale of the Ghostwood forest that he had, that portion, went to a secretive capital group, as it's termed here, that immediately constructed a privately owned prison, the Ghostwood Correctional Facility, which opened in 2001, and whose chief administrator, surprise, a Warden Dwight Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
As in the Warden Murphy from the Yankton Federal Prison in South Dakota, that Warden Murphy.
Kill him at work, at home, or on the way.
Next stop, Wendy's.
Next stop, Wendy's. So.
But.
Yeah, so what the hell?
So what was going on with that? Like what? Because apparently they just immediately slapped, like this was, it seemed like this was all part of some orchestrated plan. Was Doppelganger Cooper like behind this maybe?
I honestly don't know what the hell is going on with this thing. I mean, cannot figure out.
This is almost like another story that needs to be told. Is what's up with this prison?
This is another story that needs to be told. Yeah, exactly. Because he obviously completely screwed any business dealings he had with Catherine Martell, because he was going to. That's who he was working with on this, and it made me wonder that scene in the Return where Audrey's talking to Charlie and she said it's like Ghostwood in here. Oh. And I wonder if for her that's a symbol of betrayal.
Maybe.
I wonder if that's what she's talking. I have no idea.
That's a good theory.
This is like we said, this book does tie up some things, but it opens so many other cans of worms. I mean, there's still worms running all over the place, but they're different.
Lots of worms.
Right. So, Audrey, of course.
Just enough for another book, just saying.
Come on, Mark Frost.
Come on, don't let us down.
Come on.
You can do it. One more book.
Come on.
There's a good Mark Frost. So, Ben is apparently regretful, though, that he made the sale afterwards.
That's the thing. I think everybody just went into this period, this 6-month period of absolute chaos after.
Everybody lost their damn minds in this
Everybody lost their collective shiznit is what happened. And this whole town lost their damn mind.
Right.
And so Audrey gets an apartment, refuses any help from her parents, drops out of high school, starts raising Richard on her own, gets her GED, goes to community college, gets a degree, and opens a beauty salon in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. I kind of like this fact that Audrey, she's portrayed as a single mother that builds herself up. Like she's not relying on her father.
Right, she's not relying on her father.
And she's taking care of Richard on her own.
Right.
For all the good that does.
Well, how do you raise the devil? Yeah,
pretty much. Like, Damien, put the dog down, Damien. Yeah.
Come in, father. How do you raise the devil? You can't. I mean, if Gregory Peck can't raise the devil without dying,
right?
You can't do it. It can't happen. So,
well, he's kind of an idiot in that movie. He basically deserved to die in that movie.
Well,
I've watched this recently. He is an idiot in that movie.
He's an absolute idiot. And a little bit of trivia, if I can go back to another dark crystal.
Because everybody in the brother is telling him that his son is the devil, and he's deliberately ignoring all the signs until it's proven.
He's like, okay, I'll leave him at home with my wife while I go to Italy and talk to Leo McCann about this.
Don't.
So, oh my goodness.
Patrick Troughton getting impaled by a spike.
Dr. Who gets impaled by a spike and you leave for Rome?
And he doesn't regenerate? Come on, hello. No.
Exactly. Yeah. No, he's already in Rome. He leaves for Megiddo. Anyway,
nice.
To bring this back to a dark crystal digression.
Yeah.
Mrs. Baylock, the nanny.
Uh-huh.
Have no fear, little one, I'm here to protect thee.
Right.
Is the voice of Agra in...
Get out. Really?
No. Billy Whitelaw. Yep.
Wow.
Bougie, bougie, bougie. That's her. Yeah.
I did not know that.
That is, and because everybody knows the trivia about the nanny who hangs herself is Jack Palance's granddaughter.
Right.
But yes, Mrs. Baylock is the voice of Agra.
I never made that connection.
Yep.
You are a fountain of awesome trivia.
That's what I've got. It was much more interesting before there was an internet. I completely.
Yeah, obsolete. Well, you save everybody from having to look it up on the internet.
That's true. The nice thing, though, is that most of my friends remember the time before the internet, and they still appreciate what I have to offer. So,
you have plenty to offer, as you've proven here.
Oh, thank you so much. So,
yeah, Audrey opens a hair and beauty salon, which apparently she's operated ever since.
She's up, well,
at least until. Right. Yeah,
but she does. Richard does spend some time with his grandmother, but apparently Audrey tries to keep him away from his grandfather.
Yeah, she never allowed Richard to meet Ben,
right.
Which I thought was interesting. It's like, don't talk to Grandpa.
Yeah,
Grandpa bad.
Yeah, like evil begets evil, I think, in this situation.
Yeah.
And she's in the salon is a framed photo of Agent Cooper.
Which is really sad, if you think about it.
That's really, really sad, because we all know that Audrey really kind of fell for Agent Cooper. And I'm wondering, does she remember enough to know that he's the one that raped her?
She's smart. Audrey is very smart.
She's very smart.
She had to figure that out.
But if she was in a coma when that happened, did someone tell her? What is the deal with that? That's what I don't get. I mean, how? Anyway, so.
What about Billy Zane?
What about Billy Zane?
Right?
Seriously, where is Billy Zane in this book? I'll tell you, he's nowhere.
Nowhere. He's off being the Phantom in the jungle. That's where he is.
He is in South America because his partner died, and he never did come back.
Right.
And I'm really ticked off by that. Really, really mad. So, anyway,
Then he died on the Titanic. What are you doing?
No, he didn't die on the Titanic.
Oh, he didn't? He didn't die? Oh, sorry, he got in the lifeboat, didn't he?
He committed suicide after the stock market crash.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that up.
Say what you want to about Titanic, but I have seen it a million times because of Billy Zane.
Then he played P.T. Barnum. Oh wait, that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different thing. And he's now the colonel. Well, he was one of the colonels. He was one of the Colonel Sanderses.
He was?
Yeah, he was the first gold one. The gold where he's all dressed up in gold.
Okay.
But because it's weird because he's got hair. He's got that
because now normally he's bald.
Billy Zane hasn't had hair for 20 years.
Right.
And so we're watching this commercial, and Chris and I are like, "Is that Billy Zane?" So look it up. Lo and behold, he's talking about it on his Twitter that was him. But I was very much rooting for Audrey and Jack Wheeler.
Yeah.
very much rooting for them.
It seemed like they were going to be a great couple. I mean, we figured, well, Jack would come back someday. Those two would hook up. Nope.
Seriously.
Jack is a love him and leave him kind of guy, apparently.
Yeah. He had to go back to South America because his partner was killed. So
yep.
When he said that, I had this sort of like romancing the stone.
In my head. Yeah, then he hooked up with Kathleen Turner, and yeah,
there was some sort of
Danny DeVito,
sort of like, Minister of Antiquities, Zolo guy thing. Right. So I don't know what the hell happened there, but
that's funny. Like I said, he went over to Africa and he became the Phantom. Come on, he went back through time and became the Phantom. That's it.
Which is a movie I absolutely adore. I
do too. That's an underrated comic book movie. Is the Phantom.
Billy Zane and Patrick McGoohan. I mean, how can this possibly be all that bad?
I was going to say, you have the Prisoner. You have number 6 in that movie.
Yeah, exactly. There is one major drawback to that movie, though.
And Kristen Swanson.
Yeah.
Who I had a major crush on back in the day.
And, oh my God. What's her name?
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Catherine Zeta-Jones, yes, thank you.
Yeah, before she became famous, Catherine Zeta-Jones is in the Phantom.
Yes, she was in the Phantom. And the Phantom does have one major problem, though.
Only one?
The biggest one, I think, is Treat Williams. I've never been a big fan of Treat Williams.
Because he overacts horribly.
Well...
And he plays it very hammy.
He does, but in this, it works, though. It kind of works because... Yeah. It is one of those, like, 40s serial...
Yeah, and it was a 40s movie made in the 90s, like Dick Tracy.
Right. But so much better than Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that I do like is Treat Williams. There's a scene where he is introducing himself to the Sang Brotherhood.
Right.
And he starts to spell his name. And his name is Xander Drax.
Right. Oh, and you go
like,
Z-X-A-N?
It's A-N. I'm like, yeah!
So that's how you spell it correctly.
That's how you do it. Listen to Treat Williams, people. I'll never say that again for the rest of my life. So, anyway, yeah. So, yeah, there's really no Billy Zane in this book, and that's very, very depressing for me.
I'd never be able to make that connection, but now I will never be able to watch that scene without thinking about you.
Well, if you ever see that scene, he'll just spell out my name, and you'll be like,
know. Yep.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
So,
exactly.
Eventually,
Audrey.
Yes, back to Audrey. Eventually, when Richard's about 10,
yeah,
Audrey marries Charlie. So Charlie's real.
Yes. We were kind of wondering about that. And apparently, she does it just for financial convenience, whatever that means.
Pretty much. I mean, that's it's
tax purposes. What is it? What does that mean?
I'm thinking tax purposes because.
Was she under indictment and married him to get out of that? Was she in some tax problems?
Because that's the thing is that she eventually did close the salon.
Yeah. Well, because she enters a private care facility.
Right. So
I think that's what we saw in that brief flash.
Yeah.
I think she's still there.
So maybe is she still there, or
that's what I'm thinking of, and maybe that whole business with Charlie was like some kind of hypnotic therapy, maybe.
Or maybe she knew that Charlie would take care of things while she was gone. I don't know. Or did Audrey close the salon, or did Charlie close the salon? I mean, what's going on with them?
Yeah.
There's still much more here than meets the eye.
Like another book? Come on, Mark Frost.
Yeah. Come on, Mark. Come on.
Just one more.
Come on.
You can do it.
So Ben Horne. So we're not in the Horne family. They're not telling anybody where she is. So either they don't know, or they know and they're not telling anybody. Something is wrong with Audrey.
Something is wrong in Denmark.
What is going on in Mexico? So yeah, this is very depressing because something's wrong with Audrey, and
we need to save her.
We need to save her. The two of us. We need to go.
There you go. Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's go. So, but yeah, Ben. Sylvia has her own house, which we saw that Richard tried to break into. Well, he did break into and beat up his mother and beat up Johnny, which he needs to die for beating up Johnny. I mean, that's
he did, but
he did. Oh, of course, yeah. But I mean, as soon as he beat up Johnny, I was like, you know what, we're done here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, forget running over a kid through a stop sign intersection.
Yeah,
hit.
That's go to prison.
Yeah.
That's go to prison.
Okay.
Beating up Johnny, that's you need to die. That is mob justice. You need to die, like pitchforks and torches. Right. Mob justice, like go to Frankenstein's house kind of thing. So, so she's living in her house. Ben again is still living in the hotel. Jerry is. We all know that Jerry is doing the legal weed portion of the Horne empire.
Yeah, because Jerry's our next case. Although his is rather simple.
His is pretty simple. So
I think I'm high.
I don't know where my car is. So
I don't know where I am.
I have not your foot.
That is so adorable.
So great.
You should have done that for Kimmy Robinson.
Oh yeah, seriously.
Can you imagine if she did it?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. All right, we find out about Jerry. 8/10s
of herself in Millhouse, like her Samantha Stanky character in Millhouse. I was like so excited to buy one of those.
I bet you were.
This is so good.
You were such a hardcore Simpsons fan.
Seriously. Well, Simpsons and Twin Peaks are in my top 5 favorite television shows of all time. So.
I totally get it.
Yeah. If we could find somebody who was in the Twilight Zone on Twin Peaks and did a voice on The Simpsons, my head
would be it. That would be it.
Yeah, my head would explode.
I'm still waiting for that Doctor Who Twin Peaks connection.
Well, there's weird shit going on in those woods.
Exactly.
It's not going to be. It's not that far off. So
no, it's not. It'd be great. Yeah, Twin Peaks would definitely be a great Doctor Who episode, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. All right, so we find out that Jerry. Interesting. Some tidbits about him. He was in the Woodstock documentary. Of course he was. Yeah. And here's a funny bit. He once attempted to get a medical license to use marijuana to treat his addiction to marijuana.
Which is
that's classic Jerry.
It's classic Jerry. It's like that urban legend we've all heard about the guy that takes out the insurance policy against fire on his Cuban cigars. And then smokes them, and then tries to
get them insurance money.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be
so. Before we get to Jerry, we've got more about the prison.
Okay.
And how it just is a poorly run
facility,
ugly, bad investment all around. That it's just, and that Benjamin Horne is still really, really upset about it. That it's had all kinds of problems with collective bargaining, and it's been nothing but bad things for the community.
Yeah, because apparently there's rumors that the prison is colluding with the local police to step up arrest rates. Because remember, this is a privately owned prison, which means they get funding to have more prisoners. So, hey, help us get more prisoners. And we'll get more money that we'll kick back to you.
Right, exactly. And
which is a real thing that goes on, by the way.
Yeah, that's what happens when we privatize prisons.
Exactly.
And Tammy even points out that Warden Murphy is maybe worth their time to see if the subsequent murder related back in any way to Ghostwood. And I don't think it does. I think it might, but I don't know how. Like, why would Doppelganger Cooper care?
Right.
But we all know that Doppelganger Cooper has something on Warden Murphy.
But we don't know exactly what it is.
We don't know what it is. Like, what is it?
So maybe it's the Ghostwood stuff.
It might be. What is it he says to him that makes him do his bidding?
Oh, I forget.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember exactly what he said.
He's obviously got something on him, but it makes me wonder, like, why?
Well, he was talking about Mr. Strawberry.
Mr. Strawberry, that's it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it, Mr. Strawberry. I wonder what...
Maybe Mr. Strawberry worked at Ghostwood, the prison?
I don't know, something. Oh yeah, that might be it. I'm not sure, but what in the heck is going on that all this stuff sort of intertwines and nobody notices Doppelganger Cooper? Nobody from Twin Peaks notices this.
Well, it's kind of a hard, like, you wouldn't, like, go out of your way, but you would think that somebody that looks exactly like Cooper, somebody might go, oh yeah, that guy's still alive, he was doing this. Somebody might have squealed on it.
Or, anybody would have gone in the beauty salon and be like, oh, I saw that guy, he's got long hair now. I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah, apparently the mullet is like Clark Kent's glasses. Nobody like suspects.
That's exactly. It's the Clark Kent mullet. So
fools everybody.
So and actually, Benjamin Horne was interviewed by Tammy. Tammy Preston was able to interview Benjamin Horne, and he sort of seems like he was at the end of the first series, just older. That he just he's looking back on his life going, I've been a right bastard and I need to make up for this.
Right.
And he says that his major regret is the sale of the Ghostwood Forest. And it is, like we said, it's privatized. It's got, bad working conditions. It's got abusive prisoners. And again, it's they're trying to get arrests. They're trying to stop arrests.
Yeah. It's basically a win-win for both of them.
You know who's colluding with them to get more arrests?
Chad. We hate Chad.
Hate you, Chad.
You and your stupid secret compartment shoe key place thing.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like there's this whole other story going on with this Ghostwood prison. And
it'd make a hell of a spinoff.
It would make a hell of a spinoff. Yeah.
Just
Better Call Wars. So yeah, it should be interesting. So yeah. So next case file. Jerry Horne.
I think I'm high.
Yes.
Can't resist.
So basically...
Jerry's in the Woodstock documentary. We talked about that. And apparently he's been really successful at the whole marijuana business ever since it became legal in Washington.
I love this. Over the past 10 years, Jerry has originated and pursued one new business venture that is, without a doubt, entirely the result of his own initiative.
The one good thing he was good at. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's very, very good at this.
He knows his strengths. That's what he goes with. That's
exactly.
Good. That's a sign of a good businessman.
And it's absolutely perfect for him to be part of the legal weed business. That's the one thing he can be successful at.
And remember, in the return, he was kind of smug with Ben. He's like, "Hey, my business is going. My part of the business is the only thing that's really keeping us afloat.
It's what's keeping. Yeah, that's what's making money. Yeah. So
and he talks about here that he's going to like open brick and mortar retail stores.
Mm-hmm. And that when you're in Seattle, you see tons of those with the green cross.
Right next to the Starbucks.
Yeah, that's kind of all you got out there.
Yeah.
So, but he's
and vinyl record stores.
Oh, those are excellent.
There you go.
Yeah, Seattle's lost a couple. One of my favorite record stores I ever went to was a place called Easy Street Records in Seattle. It's gone now, but it was amazing. It was the first time I ever went to Seattle. Chris and I it was before we had smartphones, so you couldn't just Google like record stores near me or something. So we were trying to, look online as much as we can. I don't even know if we brought laptops with us, but we were trying to figure it out, looking in like phone books or whatever we were doing. And we wound up going to Whole Foods to get drinks for the hotel room, because neither one of us particularly wants to, drink whatever's in the vending machine. Like I like juice, he likes Mountain Dew. So we go to the Whole Foods to get stuff to drink and maybe some snacks for later, because we didn't necessarily feel like going out for dinner. And I saw this kid at Whole Foods totally Whole Foods kid, piercings, tattoos. I'm like, you, come here. And he hooked me up, and I have to say he delivered. So
nice.
So yeah, I'm like, you'll know where are the record stores in this town.
You're a hipster. Help me out.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. You work at Whole Foods, and judging by the way you look, you're in a band.
Did he have a hipster beard?
No, this was before hipster beards. This was like probably 2006.
Okay, so before man buns and all that.
Before man buns, before hipster beards, exactly. Okay. But so yes, I took a gamble on a stereotype and I ran with it, and it worked out well for me. And I think because I looked so much older and squarer than him, he initially told me Best Buy. I'm like, don't even play with me. I mean, just where are the independent record stores? And he told me Easy Street, and he certainly delivered. So
that's funny. It's like, do I look like your mom? Come on.
That happens to me when I go into video game stores. People are like,
they underestimate you. So that's
like, can I help you with something, ma'am? And I'm like, yeah, I need to pre-order whatever. Like, oh, okay. And then it's like, now I'm one of them.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You speak their language, so that
yeah, exactly. It's like, I may be older, but you got to remember that people older than me have been playing video games since they were kids.
Exactly.
So this is not a new thing. So anyway.
So more with Jerry. Apparently, Jerry's only friend outside of Ben is Dr. Jacoby. No surprise there.
Of course. I mean, how adorable is that?
Yeah, and he has no significant other. So.
Well, I mean.
All he does is hang out with Ben all day because he doesn't, and he gets stoned. That's Jerry's day.
He gets stoned. He hangs out in Ben's office eating.
Oh yeah, and he sits in the woods and watches Dr. Amp.
He watches Dr. Amp, and he goes out on a canoe with his stereo and plays Miles Davis music.
Yeah. And there's one great anecdote in here that I really liked. I thought it was pretty funny. Apparently, he once collaborated with Neil Young to build a sound system. And apparently, it was this ginormous sound system that he wanted to turn 2 cabins into 2 gigantic speakers.
And a woodshed is a subwoofer.
And a woodshed is a subwoofer. I read that. I just laughed out loud at that. I thought it was so funny. I could totally picture Jerry doing this.
I can totally do it. And I want to hang out in his barn filled with vinyl. I want to see what he's got in there.
Oh my God.
That'd be amazing. But yeah, Jerry Horne is exactly what you think of. Cross-country hippie thing.
Right. I'm sure he rode motorcycles with Dennis Hopper.
Friends with Ken Kesey, was one of the Merry Pranksters.
Yep.
All of that kind of stuff.
And Peter Fonda. Yeah.
And and this is kind of what happened in the 80s. I mean, a lot of these hippie pothead people in the 80s just made tons of money.
Yeah.
And so,
wasn't there another thing where he apparently toured with the Grateful Dead until Jerry Garcia died?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember that.
I think that's in there.
But that would make sense. That would make sense. But yeah, no, I know he was one of the Merry Pranksters, but I don't remember him being part of the.
I thought he rode on the tour bus and hung out with Jerry until Jerry died.
No, I'm not seeing that.
Okay, maybe I missed it. Or maybe I thought I was.
I'm just scanning it. But he was hanging out with Ken Kesey. So. Okay. But.
I mean, you can totally see Jerry doing that, though.
Jerry Horne is exactly what we expected.
Yeah.
So the life of the party, and that was the thing. I mean, he was, his job was to go find people that liked partying with him, that he could get drunk enough that Ben could convince him to spend money.
Right. He was Jerry was the advanced man.
He was the advanced man. Yes, he's the Silver Surfer of Ben Horne's.
Yeah, he brings them back for Ben to consume.
Yes, for Ben to just consume all of their resources. Exactly.
I am Benactus.
Devourer of bank accounts.
Nice.
So, all right. So our next file.
Go, my herald. Find me new venture capitalists to consume.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So as we're getting a little late, we probably have time for one or two more. before we should probably kind of wrap it up. I don't think
let's
because we're not even. I don't think we're even halfway through this, but we're pretty.
No, let's do the next two files because they're. And I apologize to everybody that this is damn depressing.
Yeah.
The next file.
The double R.
Is the double R.
Yeah.
And if you hated MT Wentz.
Oh my God! Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, apparently Norma's mother Vivian isn't her mother Vivian, as we find out in the story.
No, yeah, she's not her mother. She's like this total.
Well, she's like a stepmother to her.
She's a total wicked stepmother that married her father, bled him dry,
right,
and then totally abandoned her own daughter, who's Annie.
Yeah, yeah. That wasn't the other big revelation is that we get confirmation that Annie was related to Norma.
We always knew that.
Did we know that? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we always knew that. She came in as her little sister.
Oh, I thought that was just a euphemism.
Oh no! They were sisters.
Okay. Well, I mean, we get that here, but yeah, because
they talk about that.
Well, because we find out that officially here we find out that they're half sisters.
Right. We didn't
know
they
had the same father.
Right. We didn't know that, but we knew that they were sisters. We always knew that they were sisters.
Right, but apparently they're half sisters technically.
Yes. But yeah, Norma's father, Marty. He's the Marty of Marty.
Marty, we got to go back to the future. Oh, sorry, different Marty. Yeah.
But yeah, if you look at the sign of the double R, it says Marty on it, and that's what it was for a long time. I mean, in real life, but now it's tweeds.
Right.
But so he got sick with heart disease. And Norma ran the diner, and her mother, it's like, this is weird. It's like, she's not even a stepmother. I mean, it's really convoluted.
Well, I mean, she was, yeah. So apparently, though, Marty has a daughter named Annie with Vivian Smith after his wife Ilsa died a year earlier. And then Vivian kind of pimps out her name a little bit, calls herself Vivian Smythe Lindstrom.
Ugh.
And then marries this other guy named Roland Blackburn 6 weeks after Marty's death.
Right. So it's like...
So presumably that, okay, she was... Let's see if you do the timeline. That, okay, so she has Annie, and then presumably Roland adopts Annie when he marries Vivian.
Nobody's actually really sure what happened to Norma's death.
Right.
Because it says she lost her father in 1978, but there's no obituaries, no death records, no nothing, no headstones.
Right.
No nothing. So what the hell happened to Norma's death?
It's a good question.
Is the question.
And apparently only Vivian probably knows the answer.
And she's not telling anybody.
Because she's dead. Yeah, if we find out she died in 2013 later on.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
we find out that in Annie's senior year, so we kind of get some more details on Annie.
We get more details on Annie, but Marty, Norma's father Marty, also ran a motel, like a highway motel, called the Weary Traveler.
Oh. Which
is where he met Vivian.
Okay.
Because was she working for him? I think. Oh no, it's he was. She managed the motel. That's
okay.
Right. I'm looking at my notes.
I was going to say, don't you? You've got the book there, so.
Yeah, I've got the book, and I've got my notes on the book. She managed the motel. That's how they met, and he ran off in 1978. He didn't die. He ran off.
No, you're talking Roland.
Talking about Marty.
Oh yeah, Marty. Okay, Marty. Well, yeah. So he. Okay, so.
Yeah, so he ran off with this bitch Vivian, pretty much.
Right.
Well,
because Ilsa dies.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has Annie with Vivian.
He has Annie with Vivian, and he...
And then he hooks up... Well, then she hooks up with Roland 6 weeks after Marty dies.
Right. He's left her the motel.
Right.
And so
Marty leaves her the motel, then Roland gets in the picture.
Right. She always thought that Marty was her uncle. So there's nobody on her birth certificate as a father.
Right.
So,
but she has his last name.
Her last name is, her birth certificate is Smith. So I think she eventually does take the last name. Norma's mother, Ilsa, talks about what happened. She knew about Annie, and then that's when she changes the name to Smith, like with a Y.
Right. Yeah, Smythe.
So, right. So she doesn't meet Annie until Annie's like 12. So
well, Ilsa doesn't meet Annie because Ilsa's dead.
No, Norma meets Annie when Annie's like 12.
Yeah, you said Ilsa, so I thought that.
Right.
Okay, so Norma doesn't meet Annie.
Norma doesn't meet Annie until she's 12, but then she becomes very big sistery to her.
Right.
Which is good because Annie's kind of a thorn in Vivian's side. And that's when she marries the beer distributor, Roland.
Yeah.
And
then in the Annie senior year, we find out that apparently Roland tried to sexually assault Annie after he got drunk. Nice.
And that's where we have the suicide attempt.
Yeah, well, first Roland apparently drives his Cadillac DeVille off a bridge and died mysteriously because the brake line was tampered with.
Which my money's on Vivian on that one.
I have to think, yeah, Vivian. Well, to Vivian's credit, I guess she decided, well, okay, he's going to do this. We're done.
Well, and I will say that part of me wants to think
unless she's just mad at him, not out of being protective about Annie.
That's the thing. It's like part of me wants to believe that once she found out that he tried to rape her daughter, she killed him.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling she was sick of him and didn't like what that was the family name, and she just wanted the money.
Probably.
That's how
because Vivian is a piece of work, as we find out. Yes. So Annie attempts suicide, which was referenced in the original series.
Yes, we know that about from the original series.
And we find out she used tranquilizers and a box cutter. Nice.
And we know that because we see her scars.
Right.
In the original series.
Yeah.
Cooper sees her scars.
And apparently she cut herself the wrong way. She doesn't have the long scars. She has the short scars across the wrist. And you're supposed to.
Exactly.
Remember, kids, when killing yourself. No, just kidding. Yeah. All right. So Vivian apparently at this point hooks up with Ernie Niles. That lovable scamp, Ernie Niles.
That lovable scamp.
From that, who's obviously best pals in prison with Hank Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
So after Annie comes back from the hospital, Vivian marries Ernie.
Right.
And Annie's like, okay, I'm checking into a convent.
Right. She decides to take the vows.
Right.
And become a nun.
Probably because she was in a Catholic hospital, I believe, or something.
And she went to Catholic school. She went to Catholic school.
Right, that's right. I forgot about that.
Right. So, and of course, Vivian is fine with this because she's like, all right, well, then you're gone. I don't need to take care of you anymore.
Right. So Annie's out of her hair. She's with Ernie. And obviously there's all this weird estrangement with Norma.
Which makes perfect sense.
Right. So at this point, we get the original Twin Peaks series.
Right.
And then Ernie comes home after this series. If you're wondering what happened to Ernie, he comes home to Seattle, finds his belongings left outside in the rain. Wah, wah.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah. And then Vivian serves him divorce papers, and then Ernie's life goes on the big downward slide until he dies alone in a waiting room at the Pierce County Hospital in 2005.
Right. So he's...
So he totally gets... Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Do it. Yep. That's Ernie, and
that's Ernie to a T.
And as we know too, like that Ernie and Hank, they never, they're just idiots. They're both dead at this point.
Yeah, so they're out of the picture.
Nothing but, and there's a whole history of bad get rich quick schemes, with which they've littered the decade.
Yeah, so
trying to buy drugs, trying to buy that stupid farm. I mean, all that stuff that they were doing, they just screwed up on everything. So
pretty much.
And yes, as we find out in the series, Vivian becomes a newspaper columnist under the pen name of M.T. Wentz, who is a critic. And that's why she comes back to Twin Peaks, is to critique her own ex-husband and her own stepdaughter's diner and give it a bad review. So we've always...
So she intentionally tries to sabotage Norma.
Yes, she intentionally does. And we've always hated her.
Because Vivian is a biatch.
She is terrible. She's a terrible, terrible human being.
Yeah.
So
then Vivian later, after breaking up with Ernie, Vivian married this guy named Simon Hallowell in 2006.
Oh, I forgot about Simon.
Yeah, retired insurance executive who died choking on a cruise ship filet mignon in 2009.
Again.
This is why you should never go on cruise ships, people.
My money's on Vivian.
Yep, probably.
So, yeah.
Probably, yeah. And probably use the same poison that, got Joffrey in Game of Thrones.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. So Vivian finally checks out 4 years later in 2013.
Yep.
Good riddance. And
Good riddance.
There's one thing in here that I thought was really interesting, that Tammy, kind of inserts herself in the narrative because she goes on this rant about Vivian, how horrible Vivian is, and she's apparently really angry for what Vivian leaving Annie to Annie's horrible fate. That really bothers her.
Well, and now we have our next case file.
Right.
Which is Annie.
Annie, yes.
Which
isn't even about Annie, really.
What did you say?
Well, I said Annie's case file isn't really about Annie. Nothing, because what she ends up talking about here, Tammy does, she's talking about Cooper here.
She's talking about Cooper, but...
And we find out that apparently Cooper had a very troubled relationship with his mother, who had a bad marriage.
Yes, which we already knew from the secret tape, from his tape, from My Life, My Tapes.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was mentioned there. You're right.
Mm-hmm. And
so we find out that Cooper took care of her. Tammy argues too much.
I think Cooper's relationship with his mother, not to sound too Freudian about it, but I think that kept him distanced from women for a long time. And as evidence from his comment, I would like to one day make love to a woman for whom I have genuine affection.
Right. That he wasn't able to fight. He had these very casual, not really just, these are very emotionally cold relationships with women.
Right.
Like he would take care of what he felt his physical needs maybe, but didn't have that emotional connection.
Right. But then he always winds up with, for lack of a better term, he's one of those guys that sort of takes in strays.
Right.
Like when he finally falls in love with somebody, it's Caroline,
right,
who is in a troubled marriage. And I still need to dig out this book and see if I'm right about this, but I have a memory of Caroline being blind.
I don't have that.
I have to read that. I have to dig out. Right. That might be a future podcast.
It's probably in that autobiography of Cooper, maybe.
That's what I'm thinking. I think that's where, for some reason, I have this idea.
I haven't read that in a while, so.
Either way, she's very similar to his mother in the fact that she is from a troubled marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, and her husband is insane, like legit insane.
Yeah, as we find out.
Before he even, because Caroline, of course, is Wyndham Earle's wife.
Yes.
And before he even finds out that Cooper is having an affair with his wife, he's legit insane. So she's got that. And then we have Annie. And she even says it in here, White Knight syndrome, the irresistible urge to rescue every damsel in distress.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, and that's actually pretty perfect for Cooper's character.
It's very perfect for Cooper's character,
and it probably explains like why he's had this fixation on fixing the problem that's Laura Palmer.
Exactly.
Why he seems compelled, like he just look. I mean, if you look at the events of the return, he just got out of the Black Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Finally,
right.
Instead of resuming his life, what does he do? He goes through all the motions of trying to go back through time
and save Laura
and change what happened to Laura Palmer.
Right. Exactly. He's
still obsessed with it.
Laura's an enchanting character. That it's hard to. I have said this a million times. Everyone loves Laura, and she is the perfect example of a very sweet, troubled person screaming for help,
right?
And not getting it.
Which when you pair that with Cooper,
perfect
with the White Knight syndrome, she's a damsel in distress. He's the White Knight. So
exactly.
Like when two great tastes come great together.
But it even gives you an idea about how he's so protective of Audrey. I mean, he loses his job,
right,
saving Audrey. You know, Audrey is at least still alive,
but he gets reinstated.
He gets reinstated, but he initially loses his job,
right,
going to get Audrey, and I wonder if Cooper knows about Richard. Like Cooper himself, does he know about Richard?
That's a good question, because we never got that in the return.
No, and Doppelganger Cooper isn't like Leland and Bob.
Yeah.
Whatever evil entity is possessing Doppelganger Cooper, which we know that it's Bob, but it's almost like more than Bob at this point.
Right.
It doesn't allow Cooper through. Whereas when it was with Leland, it would give Leland those glimpses of being Leland again, just as torture.
Right.
And
that was kind of one of the things I felt let down about the return, is that we never got a really good conversation between Cooper and his doppelganger.
No, we never really did get that, but
because all of a sudden Cooper shows up. Here's what's his name? McRubberfist.
Oh, Freddie McRubberfist?
Freddie McRubberfist, thank you.
Yeah, Freddie McRubberfist.
Freddie McRubberfist is there, and and they take care of Bob the Globe and the bowling ball, right. The flying bowling ball.
Bob the Ball, yes.
And that's pretty much it. What?
You want to go back in the bag? Because we can play it away. Did you put your father's head in a bowling ball? No, the guy at the pro shop did it. For those of you who have seen Mystery Men.
Oh yes.
Yeah, she's my favorite. The bowler.
Yes, the bowler. Janine Garofalo. Yeah.
Yep. I should be allowed to have a drink with my new friends at a bar-like setting. So, yeah, but that was definitely one of those things where the two of them can't exist at the same time. Right. So, kind of knew what was going to happen with that. So it's like I wonder how much.
But it would have been kind of nice to have like maybe a good conversation where Doppelganger Cooper kind of twists the knife and says, hey, why don't you ask Audrey how her son's doing, or whatever.
Yeah, where's your boy, Cooper? Or something like that.
Real taunting, and yeah.
Because I wonder if he would have known, would he have been more?
Would he go to Audrey?
Yeah, because somebody needs to go to Audrey.
Somebody's
wrong with Audrey.
Hey, we've got a White Knight syndrome guy, right?
We got a White Knight syndrome, and we've changed the course of time, possibly. So maybe there is no Richard anymore. I don't know.
Maybe.
So we'll see.
Yep.
But so yeah, he definitely has a White Knight syndrome, and I think that very much comes out with Annie, because he sees Annie's scars the first day he meets her when she reaches across to pour the coffee.
Right, and that's when he starts being interested in her.
Right. He sees the scars on her wrist.
That's a good point.
As her sweater comes up a little bit as she reaches over to pour the coffee. So so then of course after Cooper took Wyndham Earle's wife from him, that makes Annie the perfect target.
Right.
Wyndham Earle.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So should we break here and pick up with Wyndham Earle next time?
I'd rather break on a cliffhanger than break on the depressingness that is going to come.
Yeah, that's true. We do have some rough seas ahead here. So.
Yeah, we got some buckle up, kids.
Yep, pretty much. We're going for a ride. So
I am going to say, yeah, that was on at Christmas, and I watched it, and I still hate that movie.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I actually, people say that Crystal Skull is worse. I actually still think that one's worse.
Really? Oh yeah. You mean Temple of Doom? Yeah.
Temple of Doom. Yeah.
I think Crystal Skull's worse, but that's me. But Last Crusade, you have to admit, is better than Crystal Skull.
Oh, of course.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. Last Crusade has River Phoenix. It's a fantastic movie.
Exactly.
All
right.
But and I'm sorry, spoiler alert, the fact that if they make another Indiana Jones,
as they're talking about,
and he's not still married to Marion Ravenwood, I am gonna lose my mind. I'll be so angry. I'll be so mad at that. He better still be married to her.
I just want to know if Indiana's finally gonna lose that other eye. Because remember, in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, the old Indy has lost his eye.
Yeah, that's right. We still have
that story.
No, we don't. Not yet. Well, before we turn this into the Indiana Jones podcast,
yeah, that's a whole different podcast.
I would like to say one thing. As much as I'm saying that this book can get depressing, you all still should go out and buy it and read it because it's amazing.
Yeah, if you're a Twin Peaks fan, obviously this is continuity porn for you.
It is continuity porn. That's a great way of describing it.
Thank you. So yeah, you definitely it's mandatory reading, obviously. I actually rated it for this part anyway. I gave it 9 out of 10 autopsy reports. So I like this one.
I gave it something similar. I gave it 9 out of 10 non-venomous tarantulas.
Very good. So
yeah,
we both love that autopsy report.
They're not even venomous, dipshit. But
classic Albert.
The Albert, and it's so classic Albert because,
and you could just totally hear Miguel Ferrer reading those lines. I mean,
right.
Sally will never get the chance, but
we'll never get the chance to hear him read this part of the audiobook. So
yeah, but how awesome would that have been? But
that would have been fantastic.
So obviously, next time we're going to pick up part 2. We'll see if we can finish the rest.
I think we probably.
Yeah,
we probably can because the chapters start getting a little bit shorter.
That's true.
So, or the.
I think Dr. Jacoby's is the long one, but.
Right.
Yeah. So, hopefully we'll finish up in part 2. But obviously, there's so much to cover here, understandably. So everybody, come on back next time for part 2. In the meantime, though, if you want to get a hold of us here on Ghostwood. You can reach us on the Twitter machine at GhostwoodCast, or you can email us. We haven't had one of those for a while. GhostwoodPodcast@gmail.com. It's .com. And otherwise, Xan, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
Well, I am on Facebook as Xan Sprouse, and Ghostwood is also on Facebook.
Right, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. Please check us out there. I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
Yep, we're there as well. And I am on the Twitter and the Instagram as Udinax19.
Right.
So you can find me there. What about you, Charles?
Of course, I'm on the Twitter machine as well, at Charles Skaggs, or on the Instagram at Charles Skaggs. Google Plus for 8 Crazy Kids on the Google Plus. Facebook, of course, at Charles Skaggs. And, of course, my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about Ghostwood and Twin Peaks and all kinds of comic book sci-fi goodness. I finally finished up my Star Wars Last Jedi review, which I posted
Oh, very
on
nice.
there. So took me a little longer, but again, holidays. You know how it is.
Holidays, and there's a lot going on in Last Jedi.
Yes, there is. There was a lot to unpack and a lot to rant about as well. So I did quite a bit of both. So please check out that review. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you like it. And then, of course, we're going to be posting all kinds of other comic book sci-fi news. And then, of course, my other 2 podcasts I do for Southgate Media. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast.
But you got a lot to talk about this week.
We got a lot to yes, we do, because we just had the regeneration of Peter Capaldi into Jodie Whittaker. Yay!
Yay!
And Peter Capaldi got a good send-off, so I was very happy about that. We just posted our review of that episode already. Episode 1 and 2 of Next Stop Everywhere. Nice. So if you want to know what we thought about the regeneration, check that out. And then my other podcast, the Phantom Zone podcast that I do with Karen Lindsay, where we talk about all the comic book shows on television and more.
Nice.
So please check those out. And thanks again to Zan. Glad our schedules finally worked out this week.
Yes, I apologize for having to reschedule. I was hosting Christmas 2 days earlier than I usually do. We had my family, our Christmas we did on Saturday. So, and I was hosting. So instead of geeking it up with you, Charles, I was making meatballs.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. That's more important, I think, because it's, hey, family, friends, that whole thing,
Yep.
So come on back. Next time we'll pick right back up with Wyndham Earl.
With Wyndham Earl, yes.
The next case file in Tammy's little dossier. And we'll talk more about that then. But so what, a couple weeks we'll get back and discuss this?
Yep, we should be on our regularly scheduled programming lineup of 2 weeks, every 2 weeks again.
Excellent.
Wyndham Earl, by the way, who was in The Expanse, for those of you watching The Expanse. So, which I told Chris about. He's like, "That's the same guy."
Well, it looks a little older now. Yes,
he looks different, and he's got the fuller beard and things like that. So,
right. Yeah, he turns up every so often on shows. So,
Yep. And even though he's evil, Kenneth Welsh, he was part of Twin Peaks. So if he's in something, I'll try it.
Exactly. And he's a great actor. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, he is.
So, all right. So we'll see you next time here in a couple weeks for episode 26. As we continue our second year of Ghostwood. And
yes, we'll see you in 2018, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a happy new year.
Bye.
Bye.